But in a situation where you find that a look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Now we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And we have in the studio Hamza Idris, the general editor, to review with us these papers. Beginning with the story that says, vehicle registration portal fails as importers decry delays at ports. And then you would see also the next one, electoral bill, fresh controversy as Senate reps approve different versions. Well, yeah, from what we know so far, the Senate is, maintaining the status quo, allowing direct primaries, indirect primaries, and also consensus. But the House of Representatives is saying a different thing. There should be no room for consensus, that there should only be direct and indirect primaries. So we'll see how that goes. I believe that there will be a conference committee or sort of bringing together both chambers to resolve these differences before it will finally be transmitted to the president. Also, you have Abdul Salami Sultan, others to grace Daily Trust Dialogue today. So the 19th Daily Trust Dialogue is holding today and is going to be fully packed with a lot of discussions on board, talking about politics, security, and the economy. The Daily Trust newspaper leads with the story about politics, convention, APC to pick chair from 4 contenders. The writer says aspirants lobby Buhari's men as convention timetable released. Yari, Sharif, Yuguda edged out. You'd also see President has final say. Crisis persists in Zamfara, Sokoto, Abia, Benue chapters. And then the pictorial there shows you the fight, well, not the fight, the football match between the Super Eagles yesterday, where the Super Eagles won. Super Eagles end AFCON group phase in style, beat Guinea-Bissau 2-0. So it's an interesting one. For those who have not watched the show, the match, you can pick a copy and have an idea of what transpired there. Displaced girl raped by aid worker commits suicide. A very tragic story there on page 13. Then fuel price, NEC recommends 302 naira per litre. And the next story there, Buhari arrives Kaduna, inaugurates projects today. That's on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Very, very interesting stories really to look at. So let's take a look at other papers now. The Blueprint newspaper. There you have quite interesting stories. The lead story says, Electoral Act Amendment Bill. CSOs slam Senate consensus option. Bill remains in limbo. You'd find that on page 6 with the writers. Upper Chamber settles for direct, indirect consensus arrangements. Chambers to harmonize positions. Reps opt for direct, indirect primaries. Consensus undemocratic. Invitation to litigations. That's according to civil society organizations. So it appears that we seem to be finding a balance somewhere, but it's still not yet Uhuru until the final harmonization by both chambers. Now, the pictorial there shows you discussions at the House of Reps between the Speaker and other lawmakers, and then at the bottom of that, we will defeat evil forces contesting soul of Nigeria. That's according to Osinbajo. NAPTIP, DSS operatives rescue trafficked Burundians from Imo village. And then 108,000 birds at risk as birds flu hits Kaduna. FEC approves 75.78 billion naira for FCT, erosion control transportation projects. Lagos acquires new trains for intra-city metro rail line. And then, of course, you'd see other stories there below the nameplate. We are deploying drones, other technologies to tackle insecurity. CBN leads banks 9.17 trillion naira in 7 months through SFL window. When experts brainstormed at First Bank Economic Outlook 2022 webinar, you'd find that on page 20. And then AFCON, Super Eagles spank Guinea-Bissau, zoom into round of 16. So those are the stories on Blueprint newspaper. Take a look at The Guardian. The Guardian also has, some stories leading with a political one. Electoral bill, CSOs knock Senate over consensus option as National Assembly re-amends bill. And then you see also Senate reps bow to Buhari's request on Electoral Act, consensus option on democratic, says Sislak. Huriwa, legislature a captive of Buhari. NAS attempt to over-regulate political parties unnecessary, says Olurode. And then you see also Buhari has no option but to assent to bill, says Women Forum. And then the other story is there. Court awards 1 billion naira to Kanu, orders FG to tender apology. And then the next one, watch out for the RAM column tomorrow. And then other stories, PVCs don't expire. INEC tells Tinubu, insists double registration an offense. Kicks Knox Trail Rice Pyramid unveiling. And then you see another one, U.S. vows to bolster democracy in Nigeria. So these are the stories on The Guardian today. And then the next one, The Punch. On The Punch newspaper, the paper leads with the story still on elections and politics. Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Senate bows to Buhari, includes consensus for party primaries. You'd also see Senate adds consensus to House of Reps, direct, indirect primaries proposal. Consensus will subvert popular will, antithetical to democratic principles. That's antithetical, yes, to democratic principles. That's according to civil society organizations. At the very top of that, you'd see fuel subsidy. NEC considers report today. TUC meets ASCSN, threatens showdown. PVCs have not expired. INEC counters Tinubu. FG to establish 18 modular refineries in oil-producing states. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper, which is the last paper we'll be looking at this morning. It says EFCC quizzes AMCON MD over sold assets. The next one, Kanu's trial continues February 16. Tinubu clarifies position on PVC. The lead story says governors tighten grip on APC ahead of convention. State healthsmen to shortlist 2 aspirants for chair. Zoning battles rages, and then convention guidelines out. These are some of the major stories on the newspapers today. Very interesting stories. Politics, discussions about 2023. Well, welcome to the morning show, Mr. Hamza Idris.
Good morning, Ayuba.
All right. Now, let's begin with this attempt by the lawmakers to find a balance. The House of Representatives, on one hand, is saying no room for consensus anymore because it's problematic. And then the Senate is saying just maintain status quo, direct primaries, indirect primaries, and consensus in line with what the president is saying. So what's the implication of this?
They will meet at the center. Yes, the Senate, which is the upper chamber with many elderly people, I think they are trying to tread the line of caution so that by the time they take the bill to the president, he will not reject it. Remember, when he rejected the other one, he alluded to the fact that all options should be given so that they can expand the democratic space. And there are 3 options for selecting or picking candidates: direct, indirect, and then consensus. So the dilemma here is if, for instance, they take the option of the House of Representatives, there is a tendency of the president rejecting it again. And we are inching closer to the election. All the political parties are anxiously waiting to start doing some of these things. Even INEC, you can see, is in a dilemma. It says it cannot continue to do anything or release schedules of election and all that until the issue of the electoral bill, all the issues sorted out. So I can see some smart move on the side of the Senate. Yes, and then the House of Reps also, you can see they have the support of many CSOs and other stakeholders in the polity, saying they should restrict the options to direct and indirect primaries, meaning you must have an election. So, but there should be concurrence. So the likelihood is that the two committees from the Senate and the House of Representatives will meet and fine-tune it. But I see the House of Reps bowing to the option taken by the Senate.
But isn't it fair enough? I mean, the space is still open. It's not just direct primaries. You now have indirect primaries. The consensus thing seems to be problematic, isn't it, in terms of parties getting to choose. Some people do not get the chance to actually stand for elections because of this consensus thing in political parties.
It's an option. We cannot rule out that. And why some political parties opt for consensus is if they have some underlying elements, probably misunderstanding, lack of trust, mutual suspicion and all that. So they try to opt for consensus so as to mitigate the effect of the underlying problems. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not really good, but it's an option in order to reduce acrimony in political parties. The leaders will now say, okay, probably let's pick Mr. A or Mr. B with the hope that at the end of the day, we will get it right, instead of going for direct or indirect. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. That of direct primaries is that almost all members of political parties will participate in the election. And as we speak, there is none of the leading political parties, including the banana parties, that will tell you that this is the actual number of our members. They are still battling, they are still recruiting, they are still lobbying to have followership. Now, for the indirect, meaning you will have delegates, which is also problematic because few people will have control over the delegates. They will just camp them in a certain place, and then in the morning you see them going one direction, meaning that maybe the most powerful, the most influential, somebody who has enormous resources will always have his way. So it's politics, democracy, and all that. But we will continue to fine-tune it, maybe with our analysis and all that.
All right. Now, I mean, we are seeing that the APC convention is also around the corner. Quite a number of people are contesting for the chair of the APC. Are we likely to see the impact of this electoral, amendment, having an impact
very
on
likely.
The convention?
Yes, very likely. Our lead story today, is about the politicking within the political party, that is the ruling party. Because whether we like it or not, no serious newspaper will go to bed, without interrogating, without snipping into the affairs of the major political parties. And APC is the ruling party. There are many contenders for the position of the chairman. And our story dwelled on the high wire politics, that they are narrowing on about 4 contenders. You have like 10 who want to be the chairman of the party, but credible sources told us that they are narrowing the options to about 4, and all of them are from the North Central.
Well,
Are you surprised? North Central.
It looks like a real battle there.
Yes, you see, PDP picked its chairman, which was also through consensus, right? Ayochi from North Central. They try to, there is balance of power. Now, mutual suspicion between the two political parties. You know, each one looking at the direction where the other one is heading to. Now, the fact that PDP picked its chairman from North Central means there is the likelihood that the presidential candidate might come from the North or from the South. And if it is from the North, definitely it should be from North Central or Northeast. Then the vice president most likely from the South, it could be Southwest, Southeast, or South-South. Now that APC is also narrowing the option to North Central, it means they will also pick their presidential candidate either way, maybe from the North, which could be Northeast or Northwest. And then the vice presidential candidate from the South, which could be South-South, Southeast, or Southwest, and vice versa. Meaning if they pick the presidential candidate from the North, the vice presidential candidate will come from the South, and if it is the presidential candidate from the South, the vice presidential candidate will come from the North. So it's a very dicey situation.
How will this have an implication on the chances of, some of the candidates from the southern region of the country? We have Tinubu Jagaban, who is, everywhere, contesting or campaigning already. So will this,
he has
have an
declared
implication on his
interest.
chances?
Not only him, you can see many people are campaigning for the vice president, who is also from the Southwest. Now, you can see since the time Tinubu declared, those drumming the support for former President Goodluck Jonathan is like they have lowered the tempo. But you have former Abia State Governor, Senate Chief Whip, Ojo Uzo Kalu, who says once they choose to pick the presidential candidate from the Southeast, he will also throw his hat into the ring. So there are many options, and the political scenario is really snowballing. We'll continue to see so many things. The dynamics will keep changing. As I said, what we have today might change tomorrow. You understand? It might not be wrong, because it is the situation that will now dictate what will most likely happen. And we'll continue to see this up till next year, up till the end of this year, when we also have the candidates for all the political parties. The dynamics will continue to change.
All right, well, other interesting stories. This time around, I would like for us to look at the unfortunate story about the displaced girl that was raped by an aid worker and who eventually committed suicide. What do we know so far about this story?
Honestly, I shed tears last night when I was going through the story before passing the page. It's so devastating, and it brings to the fore the humanitarian crisis we have in Nigeria. Now, this thing happened in Borno State. This young girl, being at the IDP camp, so vulnerable, you understand. So one of the aid workers said she should go and clean his room. I wonder how an aid worker who's supposed to go and clean, the abode of this vulnerable girl is now asking her to go and clean his house. And innocently, she went there. She was cleaning the house when he descended on her. And then he forced her, he deflowered her. Now she was shouting, crying, and then help in court came her way because neighbors rushed to the place, and then they realized what happened. She must be a virgin, because of what she was, saying. She was crying, saying, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you bring shame to my family? I can't take this." And then she rushed to his kitchen, took a knife, and then stabbed her, and that was where she died. So you can see the
Very
extent of man's inhumanity to man. This was a young girl, a virgin, and then this man who, a ghost, let me put it that way, a wicked fellow, he took advantage of her vulnerability, lured her to his house, and then he raped her.
This raises question about, the caliber of people that are being recruited to do this job, this aid work, social workers. It looks to me that this is not a job for everyone. It's not a job for just anyone. It has to be people who have who are passionate about humanitarian works, at heart. But it appears that over here, just anyone fits into the...
You see, everything goes here. The fact that some of these aid workers pretend to be volunteers, and they are volunteers because they don't have anything to do. Let me give you a positive example. Is what is happening with the road safety. Yeah, a road safety commission, I'm not trying to divide up, but just to contextualize the whole thing. You have volunteers, right? They have a name, road safety. You see them in the evening, controlling the traffic, giving assistance and first aid. 99% of these people, they have something doing. Some of them are directors, some of them are permanent secretaries, some of them are captains of industry. They will go to work after they close around 4. Instead of going home, they now put the jacket, you understand, and then they assist the road safety in controlling the traffic and giving assistance. But if you go to some of these areas where you have serious humanitarian crisis, people who are so frustrated, people who don't have any work doing, they now say, okay, I want to be a volunteer. And now they join some of these NGOs.
Probably probably eyeing some of the relief materials that is being donated.
So
mostly.
You see what is meant for the IDPs, what is meant for the displaced, what is meant for the disprivileged, 90% of it going to these wicked people because they have nothing to offer but to take advantage of these vulnerable people. And this is one of the cases. I'm sure maybe more facts will emerge today as to the identity of this fellow, how he even found himself there. You will find out that he doesn't have any credentials, you see. So it's so sad that people who don't supposed to go close to some of these IDP camps, have their way, and they are entrusted with the lives, and the living of thousands of people. And this calls for urgent action because we should see law taking its course on this matter. This girl, she said she don't want to bring shame to her family. And I don't think if the family will be accused because they are all vulnerable. She was there with the parents at the IDP camps, and then this man took advantage of her.
Quite a tragic one. We hope that the arms of the wrath of the law will catch up with this,
yes,
and that it shouldn't go scot-free. Now, another story that seemed to be generating a lot of reactions by Nigerians is the unveiling of the rice pyramids in Abuja about just 48 hours ago here. A lot of people on social media are saying all sorts of things. We've seen a kind of mixed reactions. I think that Nigerians should be commending, government, isn't it? But we're seeing a reverse.
Yes. First, soon after the launch, some photos emerged on social media. Some carpenters erecting the pyramid with timbers. But some media houses carried out a fact check and said, no, that video, that photos, have been there since 2018 or thereabout. And then they said it was in Delta State, one of the South states. So this dismissed the claim that it was, a phantom pyramid. And then here, I know we were the first to go to the Abuja Chambers of Commerce premises to get the photos during the preparation. In fact, we displayed the pyramid on our pages to say something big coming up in Abuja, and it happened. This was a relationship between the Central Bank of Nigeria and Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN. They showcased what they achieved during the last farming season, and they brought 1 million bags of paddy to tell the world that we have also arrived, which is positive. But what some Nigerians are not really comfortable with is the prices of, assorted rice not coming down at all. Many Nigerians cannot afford to buy rice. And when you are talking about abundance, it means price should come down so that every other person should be able to have it. But the price is not really coming down. And some are alleging that the federal government is just a copycat, saying they desecrated the wisdom behind having a pyramid, which had its roots in Kano during the days of the groundnut, when the Dantatas and the rest, erected pyramids ahead of evacuation to, other parts of the world.
Exactly. I mean, we know pyramids. Were they for, for shows, like for showcasing and all that, or were they for some kind of storage?
I read the history. They are not really for shows. They are meant to have the products in one place. There was a school of thought that said it started when there was glut. I don't know how true, but there was, this claim. And then another claim added that the Dantatas used that opportunity to, attract, the suppliers, because they were not directly the suppliers. There are middlemen who move around the country to mop up the supplies from farmers and then take them to Kano, and then they will be paid. And then the Dantatas, they formed the pyramid. But even then, from what I personally read, they used to do the pyramid with pump, because there was this man, I can't recall the name. They say he was famous in putting the last one at the peak of the pyramid. Those days, he was so famous that when he was to put the last one, you will see drummers, wrestlers, many people coming, and then they will celebrate it, and then he will put it. Then later, the white men will now buy it, and then it will be loaded onto trains and then taken to Lagos for onward transportation to US, UK, and other countries. So it has been an interesting thing. Maybe this government didn't get it right, but as far as many others are concerned, this is a feat, because for the first time in decades, we have pyramids, real pyramids. Whether they have satisfied the requirement of being called pyramid or not, I think time will tell.
All right. Now, we have also very interesting stories coming, just when government is intending to remove, fuel subsidy in the country, about FG to establish 18 modular refineries in oil-producing states. Well, how would you react to this?
I'm not happy. This is almost 7 years into the administration. Two, not has. You get what I'm saying? Yes, because part of the campaigns of this government was that they will demystify the issues around subsidy. Because in the first place, they didn't even believe that there is subsidy. And this was partly what they used to defeat the then ruling PDP. And since they came, have they done anything? Honestly, they are in a serious dilemma now, because you can see the Senate president who met with the president 2 days ago said President Buhari told him that he didn't direct anybody to remove fuel subsidy. Now, the Minister of Finance, we have heard her several times saying they only made provision for this subsidy up to June this year. And then in our paper today, you can see, and many other papers carried the report, that the National Economic Council formed a subcommittee. It is chaired by Vice President Osibanjo. They formed a subcommittee which was headed by Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai. And that committee recommended that the price of petroleum should be jacked up to 304 naira. But when they tabled the report, it was reviewed and then jettisoned, because other governors said, what we need is total deregulation. But I can assure you that this government, they will not do it, because this is an election year, and it will be the albatross of the government if they remove this subsidy. They missed a golden opportunity.
Now, are there lessons really, to learn from this kind of, decisions to politicize everything? In the previous administration, there was, the plan to remove the fuel subsidy, but it was hijacked sort of politically, and
by
it
the
turns out to
opposition.
be, and it turned out to be a political matter.
Yes.
So, are there lessons really for us?
A lot of them. As I said, you can see this government is in a serious dilemma. Most likely today or tomorrow, the NEC will meet, and we don't know what they will. They will most likely say, okay, let's remove the fuel subsidy. But I can assure you that Nigerians will not take it lightly, because what this government should have done, you see, when it came on board, is to make sure that they fix the refineries within 2 years. You have 8 years. If they had fixed the refineries, because the whole brouhaha is because we import the petrol we consume. That is where the problem is. Now, assuming the refineries are at optimal capacity, there is no need to be importing the liquid, meaning we can just refine it and then dispense. But we import it. And based on the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, you see, the forces of demand and supply should determine the price. So now fuel, the crude is over 80 or thereabout. Now imagine if it gets to $100, $120, meaning Nigerians, with the removal of subsidy, they will buy a liter in petrol station around 1,000 naira, not even 400, because the higher the price of the crude goes, the higher the price of the pump price. And when it comes down, which is very unlikely, going by what we are seeing of recent, that is when the price will come down. So the solution lies in the preparedness of government to, face the bull by the horns. That is, fix the refineries or give support to private individuals to fix the refineries. This government has just surrendered, saying the Dangote refinery will do the magic. Dangote refinery is just one, and this is a private investor. He put his money there, so it's not
profit.
going to be Father Christmas. Yes. So government must have to face reality if they ultimately win, because this is year of election. Of course, the election will take place next year, but I want to assure you that as a political reporter, we know that there is nothing serious in terms of serious projects that will happen this year, because all the political
Elections
parties'
have taken
attention
over
is
already.
on election. So whichever government comes in, if they win, again, the APC, the first thing they should do is to fix the refineries. Before they came, they have been talking about modular refineries. And what is the capacity of modular refinery? You understand? They should take it serious. If they had wanted, I can assure you that they will have built at least 4 or 5 brand new refineries. But they only issued contract for the reactivation or renovation or turnaround, whatever they call it, of the oil refinery and fuel. We don't know when they will finish. The Kaduna refinery, which they also contracted, work has not started. So you can see the politics. And that is why they are in a serious dilemma. Now, Mr. A saying A, Mr. B saying B, and Mr. C, and when they meet, they'll keep quiet, they will not even talk.
Sure. All right, now one final story for us to look at about Nnamdi Kanu's trial. On the one hand, we're seeing that the federal government is increasing the charges, against him. On the other hand, we're also seeing a court in Abia State ordering for federal government to pay him 1 billion naira, for violating his fundamental human rights. What are your thoughts on this?
You see, courts are not Father Christmas. This is the famous saying. So when you approach a court, you make your demand. If you defend it, and the person you took to court, if he did not defend himself, the tendency is that you will have your way. Now, Kanu asked for this at a state high court, and when I read the story, the judge, number one, he cleared the air that contrary to certain claims that the court does not have jurisdiction to entertain the case, is a nullity. So that was why he entertained the case. Number two, he said that yes, there was invasion, at the house of the father of Nnamdi Kanu, and for that, government should pay him 1 billion naira. Now, on the other side, the judge said the defendant, which is the federal government, I think the Attorney General of the Federation and others, that they did not counter some of these claims. But it's a state high court, meaning there is room for appeal, which I strongly believe that the federal government will go for, because they will appeal the judgment. But we don't know what will happen at the appeal court, and maybe the case will even get to the Supreme Court. But what we know at the center is that the federal government has also changed and then increased charges against Kanu. Apart from treason, they put other variables there. This case, I think, will drag up till the end of this administration. Okay. I don't want to preempt the courts.
That's fine.
But it's a funny case.
I'll just give you 1 minute to talk about the Daily Trust Dialogue, which is going to happen today. So just in 1 minute, what are the expectations for you?
This is our flagship for a very long time. We are known for this. It is what we are proud of. Unlike many other newspapers that give awards to governors, best governor of the year, best Democrat, best industrialist, and all that, we don't do that in Daily Trust. What we do is to serve as a think tank for a better Nigeria. And this program is it, because we invite prominent people who will come and then talk on the theme. The one we have for this year is 2023, politics, economy, and insecurity. Okay. You can see these are serious issues.
Okay.
So I'm sure Nigerians will be delighted with the outcome of what will happen today.
All right, thank you so much. Well, that was Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, sharing with us his thoughts about some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Now, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other issues on the program. Please stay with us.
When a situation where you find that they look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that